Welcome to the Inventory Professional Podcast, brought to you by InventoryBase, providers of industry-leading property inspection software, accredited training, and on-demand property reports. Join us as we discuss the latest news, legislation, and all things property, hosted by our very own inventory expert, Sián Metcalf. With regular special guests, listen in to our open and honest discussions about the role of the inventory professional and how to navigate through this ever-changing, fast-paced industry.
Welcome to the Inventory Professional, and I'm joined today by a very special guest, David Hutchison from Property Inspecting South Africa. David, welcome. Thank you for joining us. How are you today?
Yes, I'm fine, and thanks very much for having me on the show. I follow what you guys do quite a lot from South Africa, and we learn a lot from what you guys are doing over there. So it's great to be on the show and kind of share some of our experiences with you.
Oh no, it's a real pleasure, and it's something I've been wanting to do for a little while anyway, so I'm really pleased you'll be able to join us. So tell us a little about what you do, about yourself.
Well, actually, I spent a bit of time in the UK. About 5 years ago, I returned back to my home country, South Africa. And in the UK, I was a tenant and a landlord. So we experienced the whole inspections market and the deposit market. And when I came back home to South Africa, we kind of realized that things weren't being done properly at all. There was a huge gap in the market. And the motivation was to set the standards and improve the industry around inspections. And that was the starting point with what we did. At that time, inspections weren't being done. They were being done on paper. There were huge disputes around deposits. Deposits were going missing, that kind of thing. And when we came back, we also got involved in a dispute, and that just highlighted the need for me to try and improve the industry. And I was moving away from a finance background into something more entrepreneurship based, which I really enjoy. And so I set about looking for, well, first of all, I started out wanting to build an app to do inspections. And then I realized the huge amounts of money that it would cost, the staff that you would need, the patience that you would need. And so what I did is I looked around the world really for the best software that I could find to bring to South Africa. And it was two things really. It was the technology and the software being really good. And then it was a cultural fit with the company that we would get involved in. And that's where we found Radweb and the guys at InventoryBase. We approached them and we said, can we bring this to South Africa? And basically things took off from there. That was the starting point.
And how are you finding the app? I mean, I'm a little bit like you. I come from a completely different background. And again, my joining of InventoryBase and also doing inventories was very much led by experience, i.e. a bad one. But I had no experience of doing this sort of work previously. What I found was when I came to InventoryBase, they were really helpful and very supportive and give me a lot of advice on how to work and what to be looking for, as well as obviously just giving me an app, to get on with. Because I did try a couple of apps beforehand, but what I found was I just didn't get the support. I was kind of like flailing around in the dark slightly, trying to almost make it up as I went along.
I mean, there's a couple of points there. In terms of the technology, it's fantastic, and the ongoing features that are being developed and the support from the developers for us here, because we run the front-end support from South Africa. It's been absolutely fantastic. So very happy with the product. What you were also touching on there is what I like to call customer success, and that is taking a customer. And 99% of the time when we're demoing the product to customers, they are sitting there and they go, wow, all the time. So it's quite an easy sell in terms of the features of the product to the customer. Yeah. What's very important for me is what I call customer success. And that's the journey from someone not knowing about the product to being almost an advocate of the product. Yeah. So they go from our sales activities that we do, our online demos that we do, or in person if we can. We really like to get in front of people and sit with them around a table if we can. And then from there, it is the onboarding and the account setup. Other companies might charge for that. We do it free because we're confident in the system. And then once you've got the customer onboarded, it's then doing some training. Again, we do the training free. This is on the app. And then from there, it's support. And I've kind of tended to traditionally be a more sales-focused person, which I really enjoy. And it's strange. My journey now is I really enjoy support. So I'm getting stuck into support, how to improve that. And it's such a vital part of keeping customers and making them advocates of the product. So when you put all of that together, that's what I would kind of term customer success. And that's what we're trying to focus on quite a bit over here.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to agree. I mean, for me, support is everything. One of the things that I certainly found when I started was there just wasn't any. And even now, I think when you look to, we've got a couple of governing bodies that operate here in England, but I just don't feel the level of support is there. So we kind of like tend to be getting it on our own, you know, getting on with things and hoping we're getting it right, which is never a good thing, I don't think, because there's always room then for error. And obviously, if you stood, certainly from a clerk point of view, in a property, you're kind of wondering, well, what do I do with this, or how do I do this, or do I need to include this? It becomes quite difficult for the user, and then, like I said, then they become a little bit disillusioned. Yeah, the product is good, i.e. the app, but it's no good if you can't actually do the job. And so I agree with you. I think support is absolutely everything, right away from the account management side of it all the way through to being, you know, in the field, doing the job, doing the reports, because otherwise you haven't got a business if you're not doing that. And we both do our own academies, don't we?
Yeah. So that's the other part of it is the training around how to do inspections, the inspection industry, the importance of it. Things like tenant versus landlord responsibility, you know, that kind of thing, which isn't product related, but industry related. And we've put that together, as you have, into an academy. And it's just vital that people, you can have all the software, fantastic software, but if you're not doing the basics, and I think it's making people understand that your output is really three things: the full report when there's a dispute, plus all of your logs of activity, but it's the action list that you really need to do, and your changes. So therefore you need to capture the information correctly in the system in the first place so that you can get these useful outputs. So that's a message we try to get across, as well as just educating people around the law and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that actually. So I've read some of the bits of information from a legislation perspective over in South Africa. Do you feel that it mirrors very much what we do over in England? Is there better bits or things that they could do better than what we do, or vice versa?
I'm not sure exactly what the law is in the UK now. I mean, I never really went into that when I was there. But over here, we've got the Rental Housing Act, which dictates on residential rental that there needs to be an ingoing and an outgoing inspection. So it's quite easy when we're sitting in front of customers. We say, who enjoys doing inspections? Nobody puts up their hands. Why do you do them? Because you have to. The law says that you have to do these inspections. So,
sorry to interrupt. That is the fundamental difference with us over here. There's no actual requirement in law to do reports. It's very much seen as a really good idea, and the only way you're going to get anywhere near the deposit from either both the landlord perspective and also the tenant is by doing a report, because otherwise you don't have the evidence to be able to dispute or claim. But it's not set in law. So has that, for you in South Africa, always been the case, or is that something that's come about because it's been people have campaigned for that sort of inclusion in the legislation? Yeah,
there's definitely a drive around protection of the consumer, and I think that's where it all came from. Although it's in law, it's not a full inspection that's required. It's a defects list that needs to be attached to the list. So anything that's wrong, you need to highlight and attach it to the lease.
A bit like a snagging list, would you say? Sorry.
Like a snagging list, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But what we say is that's fine when you move out and there's only the snags that you need to check. But if you need to check the condition and prove it versus the original ingoing, your snag list is not very good at all. So
no.
We're always encouraging people to go beyond what the Rental Housing Act says. But interesting, on the commercial side, we've got a few commercial customers using it for entry and exit inspections. And there is no legal requirement. But the lawyers, we work quite closely with a really good lawyer here, and they almost won't go to court on a commercial case when there's a dispute unless there's an ingoing inspection. So although it's not in law, if you don't have it, you're really wasting time and money.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because commercials, even though we do reports for commercial premises, we don't see as much in that respect. We see a lot more on the residential, which again is completely different in regards to the fact it's not legislated here, whereas you are. So it's interesting how it differs like that. But the rest of it seems to be, I think, very much the same in regards to the evidence side. I mean, yes, we can provide snagging reports, but I don't think it gives enough evidence, enough information, and also understanding. Because certainly what I try and say to people when we're training clerks is, don't just think about what the report is now, it's also where it's got to go, who's got to use it, how they're going to use it, will it meet their needs. And if you have, like you said, a snagging list, just an asset register as if it were of all the issues, it's not really going to do anything. It's not really going to tell certainly the adjudicator what they need to know. So the report definitely does need to be detailed.
One thing I picked up from your training that I saw, or it might have been a webinar that you did, was your signposting, and we've incorporated that into it. And just having a slight angle on a photograph or a finger pointing to the issue makes all the world of difference in terms of those photographs being useful when there is a dispute.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, signposting, certainly from my point of view, my background, I used to do a lot with litigation cases for the government and from a prison service point of view. So I understand the need for very robust evidence reporting. And you can't just say, well, it's there. You've got to say, well, okay, well, to what extent is it there? Where is it? You know, so that when people walk in, you're telling them, look to your left, you know, on the skirting or wherever, and that's where it is, and this is the extent it exists, and there's the photograph to back it up. And what I find with some people, certainly with maybe landlords, is that they think, well, a couple of pictures will do. Well, yes, you can see something, but it's no good if you can't actually then explain, well, where is it? You know, what room? You know, what you're trying to tell me. So I always say to people, the written evidence is your first bit that you've got to get right, and your pictures and your video back that up. It's not the other way around.
It's interesting, although we've got the legislation requiring these residential inspections, the industry, as I say, even though it's required, is probably 10 years behind what you guys are doing in the UK. In terms of the quality, people just ignore it, they don't do it, rental agents are not very good at it. It was kind of a terrible task that no one really did. And the interesting part for me, from a business development point of view, is the inspection company. Now, those didn't exist or hardly exist in South Africa, but it's an industry that we are very excited about and we're trying to grow. So part of Property Inspect is, here are the tools to start your own business. We have very high unemployment in South Africa. And here's an opportunity to you to start your own business, find a few clients. We've got the training through the academy to get yourself up to speed. We've got the software, relatively low starting point, relatively low cost in terms of entry into the market. You can almost do it part-time to start off with, and try and build this quality industry. Agents are hesitant here because of the cost, but when they understand the benefits and the time savings and how they can utilize their time to do other more income generating activities like finding new mandates, etc., then suddenly they start to relax about outsourcing. So the outsourcing, I think, what percentage of inspections are done through outsourced companies versus the actual agent?
I don't think I can give you a percentage, but as such, but it's very high, because again, letting agents and landlords to a very big degree understand that, you know, it's not really time and cost effective for them to do their own. Plus, also the way they look at it and the way we look at it is completely different. I mean, one of the conversations I always have with our clients, our clerks, our trainees, our letting agents, etc., is that we don't think about the letting agent or the tenant. The only thing worth looking at is the property and what the adjudicator needs to know. If we get those two sections correct, then everybody else is then covered. It's like it's no different to standards. If you set your standards high, everybody else underneath that will then be covered. But whereas landlords tend to look at it at their properties a bit more from a either financial point of view or very emotive point of view if it's like a family home, whereas letting agents are more looking at it from, you know, the revenue side of things. You know, how can I get in quick, done very cheaply, very quickly, so I can generate the income? But that's not going to help them when it gets to adjudication, and the report and the information there is just not good enough to stand up. And I know that all the deposit schemes over here, they say, you know, we'll accept reports from anybody, but, you know, it's got to have the evidence. But to be honest with you, when you look at the quality between a letting agent stroke a landlord stroke inventory clerk, who knows what they're doing, it's completely different. Those two reports are world away from what a professional inventory clerk will produce for the client.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I can see it in the quality of the reports. You're 100% right. It's a profession. And we really are at the beginning stages here. And it's quite exciting because a lot of my passion is around, as I said before, entrepreneurship and things like that. And some of the things that we've built into the academy for inspection companies, we broke it into three courses, which is your private landlord, your rental agent, and your inspection company or your inspector.
Oh, that's interesting.
And is how to sell your service to the agencies. This is an important part of starting your business. You can't just sit in front of them and go, well, just outsource your inspections to me. You need to sell them the benefits. You need to understand their issues and all of that kind of thing. One problem we do have here is, I think it's just habits. Over time, it's just developed, but almost every single rental agreement starts on the 1st of the month. So we have a huge bottleneck of activity around the end of the month and the 1st of the month. There are almost no leases that start during the middle of the month. And it's absolutely crazy, but it's a South Africanism around the leases in South Africa.
I mean, we have a similar thing. I mean, we always seem to find, or I certainly seem to find, and I don't know if other listeners find it different, but the beginning of the month tends to be a bit slower, a bit quieter, but the end of the month, certainly the last week leading up to the end of the month, when the agents want to get all their figures in, get their rental stats up and their commissions in, it just goes absolutely manic. And certainly during the student period, it gets really ridiculously busy. I mean, we just don't stop. I mean, it's not unusual to be starting at 6 a.m. and still working till 6 p.m. And then you've got all the other admin side of things to do around that. I think one of the benefits, though, with the app that we've got with InventoryBase is the fact that we've got so many different ways of completing the report depending on the clerk's skill set. We're not then held to one particular person and what they can and can't do. So some people dictate, some people write, some people use the in-app function for the dictionary, etc. But as long as the output is exactly the same, i.e. we've got the right amount of detail, we're following the same kind of information and methodology so that anybody can pick up anybody else's report and work with it, then I'm absolutely fine with that. And that's something I found with other apps I just didn't get. It was either this is how it works and that's it, or you've got to have a certain person with a certain skill set to be able to produce this report on this app. Whereas with the InventoryBase app, I don't have that problem. Yes, it's promoting InventoryBase, but I use it. I've got 8 clerks. We're generating thousands of reports every single year plus. And so I need something that's going to work with us and work with them so that I can bring people on. Because one of the biggest problems we have over here is not being able to get the clerks with the right kind of mindset that can understand the need for the detail and have the patience more than anything else. I mean, do you have a similar problem, or are you pretty good in that respect?
Definitely. I mean, one of the things that we speak to agents about is the owners of the rental agencies here are called principals, and what we say to them is, consider the function within your business and what is the best way to set up this inspection function of your business. Is it for your agents to do it? Is it to have an internal person who is responsible for, among other things, your ingoing and outgoing inspections, and they become more specialized in it? Mm-hmm. Or is it outsourcing? And you touched on an important point, and that's skill sets. Often, the rental agent's skill sets are completely different to what you need to do a good quality inspection. Mm-hmm. They are salespeople, they're people, they love to do deals, they're running around doing, and they don't have the time, they've got too much going on, to have the patience to do a good quality inspection. So I think if you're setting up an inspection business, the important thing and this is also about growing a business, is to have a clear, almost document of the types of requirements that you need to become a successful inspection clerk, and make sure that those are ticked before you hire that person in your business. Because you do need, as you said, patience, attention to detail. So if you can understand that up front during the hiring process, first of all, you can save time during that hiring process, but you're probably going to have less personnel issues down the line as well.
Yeah, and that's a real key thing, because we do have, or some people experience a high turnover of staff. From your point of view, do you prefer, or do you employ, or you self-employ? How does it work over in South Africa?
For me personally,
mm-hmm.
So I'm on the sales side for Property Inspect. So that is my job, is selling the software into South Africa. And then linked to that, we have the academy. So I don't run an inspection business. We are trying to create inspection businesses. We're trying to create that industry and drive a need for the product. We're trying to educate and elevate the quality, again, to drive people into the product. A lot of the education that we do and the academy is really a filter into the product. Yes, the academy is a revenue stream as well, but the real goal is to drive people into the product. So that's really my job, is trying to create this industry and trying to sell the product to rental agents, but also look at other markets. You know, we're getting a few larger managing agents, people doing electrical and beetle and gas inspections, few commercial, few people in the banks where they need inspections done. So just trying to get the product there as much as possible is what I focus on.
I mean, yeah, I think you've touched on a really good point there. The app isn't just about inventories. I think certainly, like you said, if people are looking to build a business or based around the app and around reporting, as it were, they can use it for a multitude of other services. Certainly over here, we've got things like Legionella risk assessments. We're looking at gas safety, electrical, like you've mentioned. We've got the hospitality industry, Airbnb, albeit at the moment, I know, it's difficult circumstances, but then I think that's across the board. But there's so many other types of reports that could all be done on the app. We've just built a surveyor's notes report app as part of our offering that we offer as my business, so that surveyors can go out and do notes, capture all the information, get it all date and timestamped, rather than having to do it on pen and paper, which, from what I can see, seems to be the norm at the moment. They haven't really progressed into the tech side of things, or if they have, the tech is very bespoke and very specific to which body you go with. Whereas obviously with InventoryBase app, you can anybody can use it and everybody can purpose it. And certainly now we've got this issue with COVID-19, because we can't not discuss that. We've come up with a couple of solutions for self-service. So at the moment, obviously, we can't go into tenant properties. It's not safe. It's not safe for them. It's not safe for our clerks. So with InventoryBase, we've developed an app so that tenants can be sent a report and they can effectively self-report on the property. They can say, this is how things are. I need some help with this maintenance, or my smoke alarm's not working, or everything is fine, etc. The landlord will get an instant report, so they can then see it. So there's no one needing to go into their space, potentially, put them at risk because of the virus, but also give the landlords and letting agents peace of mind that the properties are all okay, or if not, then they know what to prioritise. And the other one that we're working on literally right this moment is a checkout option. For when tenants check out, normally we do a face-to-face. But the problem with that is that at the moment we can't do that with self-isolation, keeping the 2 meters apart. So what we're trying to do is give tenants the option so they can, again, capture the vital information, so that as they leave, they can say, right, this is what are the issues, these are the meter readings, these are the keys, this is a condition. So if we're delayed by going in, i.e. the 72 hours, or if not longer, depending on, if staff are operating, clerks are out there able to go in, there's we're bridging that gap between when they leave and then someone comes in, potentially a couple of weeks later, so that whatever happens in between, we've got an idea, we've got some kind of way of monitoring and also capturing and creating an audit trail should it go to dispute. So it, in a way, obviously the virus is really, really awful. I nearly swore there. But it is extremely awful across the globe. But there are things that we're able to do to kind of help at least our tenant side of things and the landlords. Is that something you're experiencing? I mean, how is it over there for you?
Definitely. Before I jump into that, one thought that popped into my mind while you were talking is the agility of the system, the speed with which the guys can create something like the self-checkout tenant reports, but also the flexibility of the system. So moving it into not only creating reports, but almost scheduling jobs. If you're a service provider within the business, you might do other things besides just an inspection. Mm-hmm. We've got an online agency here, and they use it for almost every visit that their helpers or their network of people in the field go out to the property. It could be a move-in or a move-out, or a midterm inspection. It could be a key handover. It could be a maintenance check. It could be a photography visit. It could be, anything like that. So the ability to customize the inspection types and almost use the system as your engine room for running your business, I think is important. So, yeah, I mean, yes, COVID-19 here is definitely hit us. Our president was quite quick and did a really good job in terms of handling it. We've got a lot fewer cases. I don't know the exact numbers. We've had a few deaths. But we're all on lockdown. Our initial date is the 16th of April, and we'll see what happens there. We're on complete lockdown. We're not even allowed to go out for exercise. It's just to the shops for medication and for food. So, yeah, we're all in the same boat, I think, with no kind of idea of how it's going to play out when and once this is lifted. So, the one good thing about a lot of South African properties is they do have bigger gardens and a bit of sunshine, so it makes it a little bit easier than probably in the UK for you. But yeah, I think we're probably experiencing very much the same.
Yeah, no, it does sound very much the same kind of thing. And yeah, all we can do is take government advice, certainly from our point of view, NHS advice about hand washing, self-distancing, and obviously isolating if you're part of the group of people that need shielding. Your older people, your vulnerable people.
Are you allowed to move in and out of a property at the moment, or you're not allowed to move in and out?
At the moment, what the government is saying over here is that realistically you need to try at your absolute utmost not to move, but obviously they do appreciate there are some people that there is literally just no choice. There's a potential to become homeless if they don't, because of what's already been pre-arranged, where they are in the chain, etc. So they're saying don't unless you absolutely have to. If you absolutely have to, then obviously you've got to follow all the protocols that are in place to keep everybody safe. So it's not considered ideal, but they also appreciate that some things have just got to happen. So it's just about being sensible about that and making sure that everybody just follows those rules and making sure that we do as little as we possibly can. I mean, from our point of view, we're not considered as an essential service, and I totally get that, and that's quite right. But equally, we also know that people do need to move, and some of them, for us, are key workers like paramedics, like nurses, etc. And for one reason or another, they've just got no other choice. So we're doing what we can within the guidelines, because obviously, as you know, we can't work from home. We need to be out in the field to be able to do the job. So for some clerks, they've decided that they're not going to do that. So they've just literally stopped for the moment. Other clerks are going out, but they're being very, very careful, making sure that they follow, all the safety protocols, and spending a little time out as is humanly possible to get the work done and get back in. I mean, our government has given out a very big and extensive package for people who are employed and self-employed to help them. Unfortunately, some people, certainly within our industry, are falling through those schemes. They sit in between the cracks, as it were, which is a bit difficult. But hopefully, we're looking to see if the government will make some more updates of that and seeing where else they can help. So some people feel that, you know, they don't really have a choice but to go out. So we've got the option. We can go out and exercise. We can work out if we are unable to do it at home, but realistically it should be essential services only. So it's kind of like similar, but obviously we're not on full lockdown like yourself. But in the meantime, what we are doing is upping what we're doing in regards to training. So we've got a few more webinars coming out. We're podcasting like with your good self, and we've got some other podcasts lined up. We've opened up our training academy to InventoryBase users for free, and we've also given out discount codes to users people who aren't using the system, who want to train whilst they're locked down, because at the moment, you know, it's not a lot to do. So it's good to really, you know, get your knowledge base or your skills more up to date, etc. Plus, also we've got a support hub on Facebook that we run. And I'm very active on LinkedIn. So it really is a case of, you know, ask me a question, see what we can do, help, support, telephone, you know, and just try and keep people kind of motivated and busy more than anything else, because last thing you want to do during this crisis is just sit there and get, you know, worry yourself. So it's best to be busy, and best way to do that is to learn.
Definitely. And I think from a sales perspective, what we're trying to do is revisit all of the accounts that were or businesses that were looking on coming on board and saying, let's use this time, let's get excited about streamlining your process for the future so that you are more effective and you are using technology better. And what we'll do is we'll set up your account, we'll train all you guys. They can all log into the training, use the system, do inspections on your home, and we're not going to charge for new accounts until this is lifted. So it's a great opportunity to get stuck in, get the system working perfectly, and get ready for when the lights come back on.
Yeah, and they will come back on. I think, you know, it's very difficult to see that right at this moment in time, quite rightly, because we just don't, every day is changing. Every day there's more news, etc. But it will come back on. And I think certainly from a rental point of view, people then start to move quite quickly, especially the student market. Certainly over here in England, it's quite a big market, and we're coming up to June, July, when people will be normally going home in the summer recess, and then new students start in September. So there's going to be a lot of work stockpiling. So we've got to get ready for that. So that's why we're looking at, from academy point of view, getting people skilled up, getting them ready so that they can literally hit the ground running. So yes, you know, times are hard now, but there's potential there, you know, to pick up and hopefully even that out. So it's just about making as much available as we possibly can. It sounds like you're doing exactly the same.
And it makes sense. And I think there's a lot of business owners that are excited about the opportunity of getting their systems in place and getting everything ready. And it's fun to talk to those people now. And they're often very busy. And at the moment, they're focused and they're engaged in your demos and how the software can benefit them because they have this time.
Yeah, exactly. So the amount of times we've had conversations with people, it's like, oh, don't have the time, I'm busy, can you call me back next week? And so now, in a way, we've got a bit of a captive audience, but we want to use that to help support. And I think that's the key thing that we're looking at is support, help, advice, you know, just to help everybody get through this, do what we can. And like I said, that light will come on eventually for everyone. And just the main thing is just to keep safe and listen to what the governments are telling us, and do our best that we can.
And stay healthy.
Exactly, very much so. Well, I think that's a really good point to finish on, David. Thank you so much for agreeing to talk with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we need to definitely do it again, and we need to certainly catch up on the academy side of things. But it'd be great to have another conversation just about that if you're up for it.
Yes, I would love to. We do learn a lot from what you're doing there, and it's great to share ideas. So yes, fantastic.
Lovely. Okay, well, that's great. Well, again, thank you so much. Please stay safe. I look forward to speaking to you again. And from a podcast point of view, we will be scaling up our podcast. So if there is anybody out there that wants to have a discussion with us, wants to go over anything specific that's interesting to them, or they think that would be great to share with everybody else, then get in touch with me. And the details will be on the podcast website, on Apple and Spotify. And we look forward to speaking with you again soon. Thank you, David, and goodbye.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Inventory Professional Podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, subscribe to our podcast now and share the love. This podcast was brought to you by InventoryBase, providers of industry-leading property inspection software, accredited training, and on-demand property reports.